Rick and Morty comics are a thing, if you didn't know. I recently picked up volumes 1 through 3 from the library, and I did not like the first 3 volumes. It's written by Zach Gorman. Essentially, if you're not familiar, Rick and Morty is a popular television show, and the comics are based off the show. The first 2 volumes are written by Zach Gorman, and there's one good story in each volume, but overall the comics are kind of underwhelming. The third volume has different writers. Same thing, didn't really like the main plot. One of the end stories is pretty good. However, the series takes a great turn by the introduction of Kyle Starks. Kyle Starks, I don't know if he's just a better writer, but he is in charge of the comics through volumes 4 to 9, and they are hilarious. The Rick and Morty comics that he wrote are great. I think the reason why is because skillful research. I noticed that the first 3 volumes tried to just create new sort of storylines, and there wasn't much callback to the show. However, volumes 4 through 9, they mine the different things that the show doesn't finish. Like there are always things in a show that don't really get fleshed out, so the comics decide to do a lot of throwbacks, which feels a little cheap sometimes, but you have to also remember that it's a comic book writer's job to, try to emulate the humor, jokes, the tone of the show, and it's really hard to create original stuff. So why not, bring back a character from the show? So obviously you shouldn't read the Rick and Morty comics if you haven't seen the show, because volumes 4 through 9 have a lot of callbacks, but there's some hilarious stuff going on. So volume 4 is the first volume that Kyle Starks wrote. It's hilarious. All of the stories are great. The first one begins with a 2-parter storyline introducing a new character named Peacock Jones. He is a Doctor Who parody, and he basically enraptures Summer to become his new companion when Rick and Morty try to do this thing for nice... basically, Morty wants Rick to do something selfless, so they go to this planet to club some seals. It's the only way to get their something from their stomach lining, and it turns into a powerful hallucinogenic drug. So then Rick ends up becoming like a Walter White type drug dealer, and he ends up getting chased by the police. Hilarious story arc. And then the next arc is a story about Rick and Morty visiting one of Rick's old friends. One of his old friends married a terrible woman, and she's taken over the kingdom, so he has to try to find and deliver an important message to his friend. And then the last storyline, the quality of art dips a little bit, but it's a quick story about Morty trying to get beefed up to play basketball, so he asks Rick to help him out. Rick gives him this weird alien juice that lets him become roided out so he can play basketball. However, that comes to a tragic end. It's very similar to the Cronenberg episode. It's basically same skeleton, however still hilarious. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, volume 5 is the return of Tiny Rick. Basically, this storyline brings back a character that only had a little mention in the show, Doofus Rick, from the episode with the multiverse of Ricks. One of them is a lot kinder than the others. So whenever Jerry's feeling low, he actually finds a way to go visit Doofus Rick, and they go hang out because they become best friends. However, while they're at a theme park, basically they get spotted on by that universe's Jerry. And that universe's Jerry is the exact opposite of the normal Jerry. Normal Jerry is a coward, a spineless fool. However, this Jerry is a violent, ambitious, super intelligent, vicious villain, and he wants to switch places with Rick. So he finds a way to get into his house, take over, trap Jerry in their dimension, and then this doofus Jerry ends up being the biggest threat that Rick and Morty have ever faced. It's a really intriguing 3-part storyline that homages all sorts of things like Pacific Rim, and it's just a pretty interesting way of bringing in a multiverse Jerry. What if a Jerry was villainous and evil and hard to kill? Story of volume 5 is basically the same person who has the weirder sort of childlike art style essentially has Rick and Return of Tiny Rick. When Morty wants to, go out with Summer, Tiny Rick basically returns to help him out. However, there's an interesting little twist for that story. Also, each of these trade paperback volumes have a collection of bonus shorts that are hilarious that I won't get into. All right, volume 6 is another strong entry. Basically, if I remember it right, Morty wants to go to prom with Jessica, but he's unable to. So he goes with this Martian princess, and because Summer doesn't have a date, Rick creates a Bustin' Jeebers, which is a parody of whoever, to go with him instead. But he ends up being dangerous as well. And then there's also a robot Morty who's supposed to go with the Martian princess, because Morty gets a real chance with his crush. And it's another funny action-packed storyline that it has unpredictable stuff happening on. Oh yeah, this one also has the hilarious guy. There's a character named Drippy Boy. He's just like a one-off crazy character. He's great. That's actually the first story in the volume. Then there's the dance. Then there's a story about Hitler that's not that great. I didn't really like that one. And then, yes, the same person who comes with the weird... Oh yeah, so the third storyline in volume 6 is Interdimensional Cable 3. Not as good as the show versions. Also that same weird cartoon kitty art style. So volume 6 is another strong entry simply for the prom storyline and Drippy Boy. Volume 7 starts off strong. There is a storyline in which they go on vacation, and Jerry demands that no one bring any technology. So they basically go to the world's largest ball of twine, and they get kidnapped by aliens who want to inspect their asses. And then there's another twist at the end. It's pretty funny. And then, let's see. Oh, there's another good story with Summer. Summer finds out that there's another dimension where she's cool, and she finds out something about herself. It's a really strong character development for her. Really good arc for her. And then there's a short prequel about Crumbopulous Michael that sets up something else later. That was pretty good. And then there was Jurassic Park parody that wasn't that funny. And then another weird summer storyline about her and a robot car. Very similar to the one from the Keep Summer Safe from the show. So volume 8, I don't have it with me, but it's basically about vampires. It's another throwback to the Coach Ferratu guy from the show. Really funny episode. I mean, funny character arc. I don't remember the second arc in that storyline, but it was a really strong entry. That's when I realized that the comic's really good. Volume 9 is the finale of sorts. Not like a finale for the series, but a finale of like all of the arcs that came before it. They've actually been setting up a Rick Revenge Squad. All these characters that he's wronged the last 4 or 5 volumes have teamed up to take on Rick. It's an action-packed arc, really good. Then there's a little bit of a prequel with the Vindicators and some imposters. And what else? There's one more story about the Cronenbergian that wasn't that great. But Rick and Morty comics are very enjoyable, if you're still watching this video. They're definitely worth checking out. Volumes 1 to 3 are slow, with one good storyline in each, and then volumes 4 to 9 are amazing. So that's what I felt about the Rick and Morty comic book series.